What if one of the most beloved love stories in Hollywood wasn't over? What if the fairy tale that made the world fall in love in 1990 had one more chapter to tell 35 years later? Back in 1990, a film changed everything. It wasn't just another romantic comedy. It was a cultural phenomenon. Pretty Woman, starring Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, swept audiences into a whirlwind of laughter, passion, and charm. With its unforgettable mix of romance, humor, and Cinderella-like magic, the movie didn't just entertain, it created an era-defining moment in cinema. People didn't just watch Pretty Woman. They lived it, they quoted it, and they carried its memory for decades. The film became more than a story, it became a feeling, one that audiences still treasure to this day. At the heart of this classic was Julia Roberts. Her performance as Vivian Ward, the lively and free-spirited woman who finds love in the most unexpected place, made her not only America's sweetheart but also an international star. With her wide smile, her magnetic screen presence, and her ability to balance vulnerability with strength, Julia gave Vivian life beyond the script. For many, Julia Roberts wasn't just playing Vivian, she was Vivian. The character became iconic, and the film became a milestone in her career, catapulting her into Hollywood royalty. Pretty Woman wasn't just about romance. It was about possibility. It was about second chances and seeing beyond appearances. It gave audiences hope that love could be found in unlikely places, and that even when life seems unfair, something magical could happen. For millions of viewers around the world, the movie was a reminder that dreams, no matter how wild, could come true. That message stayed with fans long after the credits rolled, and it continues to resonate decades later. Over the years, fans have revisited Pretty Woman again and again. It has been played on TV countless times, streamed on platforms, and quoted in living rooms, classrooms, and even weddings. Its soundtrack, from the famous "Oh, Pretty Woman" song by Roy Orbison, instantly takes people back to that very first watch. Generations who weren't even born in 1990 have now discovered the movie and fallen in love with its timeless charm. That is the magic of true cinema. It doesn't age, it doesn't fade, and it doesn't lose its power to move people. But as time passed, one question kept echoing among fans. What happened next? Did Vivian and Edward stay together after the credits rolled? Did their love story last through the challenges of real life? For decades, audiences have wondered what became of the characters they loved so much. Hollywood rarely returns to such classics, fearing that sequels may never live up to the original. But the desire to see Julia Roberts step back into the role that defined her career has never gone away. The very thought of a sequel to Pretty Woman has lived in fan discussions, online forums, and interviews for years, waiting for the right time, the right story, and the right reason. That time is now. With Julia Roberts stepping back into the spotlight for Pretty Woman 2, A Second Chance, Hollywood is preparing to revisit a love story that shaped a generation. But this isn't just about nostalgia. It's about giving audiences a continuation of a fairy tale, reimagined for today's world. It's about showing that love stories don't end at happily ever after. They evolve, they mature, and they face new challenges. And most importantly, it's about giving Julia Roberts the grand comeback her fans have been waiting for. In this new chapter, Julia isn't just reprising her role, she's reclaiming it. She's taking Vivian from the bright-eyed dreamer of 1990 to a woman with wisdom, experience, and her own story to tell. This isn't just about looking back, it's about moving forward. And as the world counts down to December 2025, the excitement grows. Can the sequel recapture the magic of the first film? Will it create a new wave of romance on screen? These are the questions fueling anticipation, and they are exactly why the return of Pretty Woman feels like more than a movie. It feels like history being written again. The legacy of Pretty Woman lives in every smile, every memory, and every line still quoted today. And now, after more than 3 decades, the chance to continue that legacy is finally here. This isn't just about Julia Roberts returning to Hollywood. It's about cinema giving us a second chance to believe in love, in magic, and in the timeless beauty of storytelling. Time has passed. The fairy tale that once captured the world didn't end with a kiss in the back of a limousine. It continued into real life, with all of its joys, challenges, and heartbreaks. In Pretty Woman 2, A Second Chance, we pick up decades later, where Vivian and Edward are no longer the fresh-faced lovers who defied expectations. They are older now, shaped by time, distance, and choices that pulled them apart. And that is where the story begins, not at the height of passion, but in the quiet reality of life after happily ever after. Vivian Ward is no longer the young woman trying to find her place in the world. She has built a life, found independence, and learned how to survive on her own terms. She is successful, respected, and wiser, but beneath her strength lies a lingering ache, the memory of a love that once changed her life. Edward Lewis, on the other hand, has lived a different kind of life. The once powerful businessman is now semi-retired, still sharp, but far more reflective. He has known success, wealth, and all the trappings of power, but none of it filled the empty space left behind when Vivian slipped away from his world. The film doesn't present them as perfect people who stayed together through thick and thin. Instead, it paints them as human, flawed, fragile, and deeply relatable. They loved, they lived, and somewhere along the way, they lost each other. And yet, destiny is not finished with them. By chance or maybe by fate, their paths cross again. And what happens next is the beating heart of the sequel. The setup is simple yet powerful. Vivian and Edward are brought together by an event neither of them could have predicted. Perhaps it's a wedding, a business deal, or even a mutual friend's farewell. Whatever the reason, the moment is charged with unspoken words and unhealed wounds. They see each other not as they once were, but as who they've become, two people with entire lives lived in the space between their last kiss and this new beginning. What makes Pretty Woman 2 so compelling is that it's not about young love. It's about grown love. It's about second chances in a world that rarely gives them. The story explores what it means to fall in love again when time has already tested you. It asks, can love truly last after decades apart? Can you forgive the past, rediscover connection, and trust your heart again? The narrative unfolds through small, intimate moments rather than grand gestures. The awkward silence when they first meet again. The nervous laughter as they share a meal, trying to ignore the memories that flood back. The slow realization that the spark, the magic, has never truly gone away. These are the kinds of moments that define the sequel, not just romance, but real humanity. But every second chance comes with obstacles. Life has left them with scars, both emotional and real. Vivian may have commitments, perhaps a family or a career that demands her time. Edward may face his own battles, whether health, regrets, or the weight of a legacy that has lost meaning without love. Their story isn't just about rekindling passion, it's about facing life as it is, not as they once imagined it. And then comes the turning point. The decision every great romance must face. Do they risk their hearts again, knowing how much they've already lost? Or do they walk away, leaving the past as a cherished memory? This conflict is the pulse of Pretty Woman 2. Unlike the first film, where romance bloomed against the odds, this sequel challenges the idea of love itself. Can it be reborn, stronger and deeper, after decades of separation? The film promises an ending that will move audiences to tears. Not because it repeats the fairy tale, but because it shows the beauty of rediscovery. Love, as the film reminds us, isn't just for the young, it belongs to anyone brave enough to try again. Vivian and Edward's journey becomes a mirror for every viewer who has ever wondered if it's too late for love. Too late for forgiveness, or too late for happiness. In the end, Pretty Woman 2, A Second Chance isn't about retelling the old story. It's about writing a new one. It's about showing that time may change faces, careers, and circumstances, but it doesn't erase the human need for connection. For Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, stepping back into these roles is more than acting. It's giving audiences a reminder that love stories don't fade with age. They evolve. They endure. And sometimes, when you least expect it, they find a way back. This is the heart of the sequel, not a fairy tale, but a second chance. And that, perhaps, is the most powerful love story of all. Julia Roberts has always been more than a movie star. She is a symbol. When she appeared on screen in the early 1990s, she wasn't just acting. She was redefining what it meant to be a leading woman in Hollywood. Her wide smile became legendary. Her charm was effortless. Her ability to blend strength with vulnerability made her one of the most beloved actresses of all time. Yet, in recent years, Julia has taken a step back from the constant spotlight, carefully choosing her roles and spending much of her time away from the frenzy of Hollywood. That's why Pretty Woman 2, A Second Chance, feels like more than just a film. It feels like an event, a cultural homecoming. Julia Roberts, at the height of her maturity, is stepping back into the role that made her a household name, and she is doing it not for nostalgia alone, but to prove that stories about women don't end at youth. They evolve. They deepen. They matter more than ever. Her journey back to Vivian Ward is symbolic. In 1990, Vivian was Julia's breakthrough role, the part that launched her into stardom and made her the face of an entire decade of romantic comedies. With Pretty Woman, she became America's sweetheart, the actress everyone wanted to watch, to cheer for, to fall in love with. She ruled the box office with hits like My Best Friend's Wedding, Runaway Bride, Notting Hill, and later, the Oscar-winning Erin Brockovich. For years, she dominated Hollywood in a way few actresses ever could, but Julia Roberts is not just defined by her success, she is defined by her choices. Unlike many stars who cling to fame, Julia stepped away when she needed to. She chose family, privacy, and meaningful roles over constant publicity. In an industry obsessed with youth, she refused to chase every script that came her way. She picked projects that spoke to her heart, even if that meant appearing on screen less often. And in that quiet absence, her legend only grew stronger. Now, her decision to return in Pretty Woman 2 is not just a career move, it is a statement. It says that Julia Roberts doesn't need to chase a comeback. She defines it. It says that women in Hollywood are not limited by age and that love stories are not reserved for the young. In fact, her comeback might be the most important one of her career, not because she needs to reclaim her crown, but because she is showing that she never lost it. The industry knows this. Hollywood is buzzing with anticipation. Directors, producers, critics, and fans all understand that this film is not merely a sequel, it is a landmark. It is Julia Roberts, one of the last true movie stars, stepping back into the cultural conversation with the same role that made her immortal in cinema history. For an audience that has watched her grow from the bubbly Vivian to the seasoned actress she is today, this is not just a film, it's a reunion. What makes this comeback so powerful is the way Julia aligns with the story itself. Just as Vivian and Edward are rediscovering love after years apart, Julia is rediscovering her connection with audiences. The parallels are striking. Both the character and the actress are stepping into the light again, older, wiser, and ready to show the world that time doesn't diminish magic, it enriches it. Watching Julia Roberts walk back into Vivian's shoes will not feel like acting. It will feel like life imitating art, and art reflecting life, and audiences are ready. The excitement isn't just about nostalgia, it's about representation. Viewers who grew up with Julia Roberts are older now, too. They want to see their own experiences reflected on screen, love after loss, second chances, and the beauty of aging with grace. Younger viewers, meanwhile, get to see why Julia Roberts became a legend in the first place. Her return bridges generations, uniting fans who first discovered Pretty Woman in the theater with those who discovered it years later on streaming platforms. This is why Julia Roberts' comeback matters. It's not about box office numbers, though those will surely be impressive. It's not about reliving the past. It's about celebrating the timelessness of her presence, her craft, and her ability to move audiences like no one else can. Pretty Woman 2, A Second Chance, gives Julia a stage not just to revisit her legacy, but to expand it. In December 2025, when the lights go down and Julia Roberts appears once again as Vivian, the world will not just be watching a movie, they will be witnessing a moment in cinema history. Her comeback is more than a performance. It is a reminder that some stars don't fade. They shine brighter with time. December 2025 is more than just another holiday season on the movie calendar, is a date already written in bold letters for film lovers everywhere. That is when Pretty Woman 2, A Second Chance makes its long-awaited debut. But unlike other releases that come and go, this film arrives with the weight of legacy, the force of nostalgia, and the hope of a cultural revival. It is not just about seeing Julia Roberts and Richard Gere on screen again. It is about witnessing the rebirth of a story that has lived inside audiences for 35 years. The release itself feels like an event. In an era where streaming platforms dominate and movies fight for attention, Pretty Woman 2 has the rare power to draw people back into theaters. Imagine the opening night, crowded cinemas filled with fans both old and new, laughter and tears mixing in the dark, as audiences rediscover the magic of a love story they thought had ended long ago. It will not be a film people watch quietly at home. It will be an experience, a collective moment of joy, anticipation, and emotion. But beyond the box office, the impact of this film reaches deeper. For Julia Roberts, the release represents a turning point in her career narrative. Many actors fade into memory, their glory years locked in the past. Julia, however, is rewriting that story. By returning to the role that defined her, she is not only honoring her legacy, but expanding it. The release is proof that great performances do not belong to youth alone. They belong to talent, to heart, to courage, and Julia Roberts has all three in abundance. For the industry, Pretty Woman 2 is a lesson. Hollywood often underestimates stories about older characters, especially women. Too often, sequels focus on reboots, remakes, or younger casts meant to replace the originals. But this film proves there is another way. By bringing Vivian and Edward back, the story highlights the beauty of maturity, the complexity of love later in life, and the power of actors who carry decades of lived experience into their roles. If the film succeeds, it could change the industry's approach to storytelling, opening the door for more films that honor the journeys of characters and audiences who have grown older. The cultural impact cannot be overstated. Pretty Woman was once a film that inspired hope, romance, and possibility. Its sequel arrives in a world that desperately needs those same things. In a time of global uncertainty, audiences crave stories that remind them of joy, resilience, and the belief that it is never too late for love. The release of Pretty Woman 2 could ignite a wave of optimism, not just in theaters, but in the hearts of those who watch it. It is more than entertainment. It is a reminder of what makes us human. And then there is the generational impact. Parents who watch the original in theaters now get to share the sequel with their children and grandchildren. Younger audiences will experience Julia Roberts on the big screen for the first time, not just as a legend from the past, but as a living, breathing icon. In this way, the release is a bridge across time, uniting generations through a single story. That is the rare kind of magic only cinema can create. Critics and historians will analyze the film, of course. They will debate whether it matches the charm of the original, whether the story holds up, whether the sequel was necessary. But the true measure of impact will not come from reviews. It will come from the tears in the eyes of the audience, the laughter that fills the room, and the quiet moments when people leave the theater holding hands, reminded of their own second chances. That is what Pretty Woman 2 offers, not just a story on screen, but an invitation to believe again. As the credits roll in December 2025, something extraordinary will happen. Audiences will realize they did not just watch a sequel, they witnessed history. They saw Julia Roberts reclaim her role, Richard Gere return as her partner, and a love story reborn after decades. They experienced proof that some stories never truly end. They wait, quietly, until the world is ready for them again. And when that day comes, as it will this December, the world will know. Pretty Woman 2, A Second Chance is not simply a comeback. It is a celebration, a reminder, a promise, that love, no matter how much time has passed, can always return. And when it does, it is more powerful than ever.